Good morning. I'm Emily Beckett, Digital Marketing Specialist at Sprague.
And I'm Joel Williams, Director of Refined Product Sales here at Sprague.
Welcome to Sprague's Refined Products Review, where we share what's moving the market, giving you insight into what we're seeing every day. So, Joel, there's been a lot of news coming out over the last few days. What do you make of all of it?
Yeah, so I think first let's put a disclosure out there. We are filming this Tuesday afternoon. This will release on Wednesday. We could see quite a bit happen between now and then. So please excuse if any of this becomes outdated, but we'll give you the best view we have from right now. What we're seeing out there right now is obviously at the highest level. This conflict in Iran can go three different ways. We could see a diplomatic solution if either the two sides can come to a solution, or if Iran decides to sort of give up to what the U.S. terms are. You could also potentially see the U.S. just pack up and go home. Or the third option, which it looks like we're headed towards right now, is that we can see this war escalate pretty significantly in the next few days here.
And what are the chances of there being a diplomatic solution?
Yeah, a diplomatic solution is absolutely possible. I mean, it would appear that the Trump administration has preferred that to be the outcome here. They've given Iran every possible off-ramp to come to a diplomatic agreement here to end this war. Even as late as today, we heard negotiations were going on. But at this point, it feels as if the two sides are just too far. So really, we're going to have to wait and see if this war escalates, and then potentially if one of them bends as the war escalates, so we could maybe come back to a diplomatic solution here.
And is there any chance the U.S. would just pack up and head home?
Yeah, there's always the chance that the U.S. could just pack up and go home. As of late in particular, we've heard the U.S. say many times that militarily it's done everything that it wanted to do during this war. And that really has kind of left that angle open to just walk away. The real challenge here is the Strait of Hormuz, and to just get up and walk away with that unresolved at this point would seem to be somewhat untenable. I mean, the U.S. could actually do that and say, all right, the rest of the world, NATO, UN, whoever else, go in and fix this mess up. But that just seems unlikely. And then to leave it in the current situation, which is what Iran wants right now, which is basically to just put up a toll booth over the strait. And with that toll booth, they're going to define who gets to go through the strait and how much they're going to pay. So again, for most of the world, that seems like an untenable situation. So it's kind of hard to imagine that that's how we're going to end here.
So you talked a bit about escalation. What could that look like?
Escalation here could take many paths. I mean, it could go anywhere from Trump fulfilling his bombing them back to the Stone Age, all the way to some just certain targets being hit to kind of increase pressure. Such a escalation, unfortunately, it really could cause long-lasting damage to the Middle East and particularly to our industry. Obviously, we're all concerned about the humanitarian aspect of this escalation, but again, what we focus on here tends to be what's going on in the oil industry itself. I mean, there's a few places that we really should be looking at this escalation to see what happens. Primarily, it's the Karg Island. When we look at that island there, that's where 90% of all the Iranian crude makes its way to market. It has the capacity to ship up to 7 million barrels a day. So that's 7% of the overall worldwide crude usage. Lately, it's been doing closer to 1 or 2 before the war, mainly because sanctions have kept it down. But obviously, that island becomes key in a few senses. One is that, it's funding the war from Iran right now. I mean, that's where Iran's money comes from. It's from the sale of oil. And so if you are able to stop the sale of oil for Iran, you can kind of choke the financing out, and that's one way to kind of get a war to end. The other aspect of Karg Island is that, you would like it to still be there after the war, assuming that this comes out all looking good in the end, because you're going to have to build Iran eventually. And the money to build that's going to come from oil. And so when you look at the island right now, the big question is what does the U.S. do if that's where it wants to focus? The best option is to keep that island still viable, but to control it. Unfortunately, to do that, that's boots on the ground. That means you have Marines that have to go in and take this island over, and not only take it over, but then hold control of it and to really choke off that. So while that, strategically gets you the best spot because you have the island preserved and you cut off the money, obviously it's putting a lot of American lives at risk and continue to be at risk, which is something you don't want to see. The easiest obvious way to cut the funding off would be just to blow the island up. I mean, it's not that substantial of an infrastructure where, a bombing run could take it out pretty substantially. The challenge with that is that, as we said earlier, you've now delayed the rebuilding of Iran that much longer. if you do that. So that's a big challenge. And then the other thing that really in our industry we should be watching here is, if this escalates, what is hit and how badly is it hit? I mean, we know that the Iranians could hit all types of other oil assets in the Middle East, as well as the U.S. could hit the Iranian oil fields, the natural gas fields, things like that to pressure them. The question then becomes, how much of a disruption does it create? Is that, disruption measured in thousands of barrels or millions of barrels a day? And the other thing that becomes is, once this war does end, how quickly does that get back online? And are you measuring that timeline in days, weeks, months, potentially even years? So that's really what we're watching for as an industry right now.
And bringing it back to the Northeast, what are you watching here?
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we're watching here. On the supply side, I'm watching cargoes from the Northeast headed to Europe and even Africa. We're watching the spot prices are staying very strong in the harbor. And we're also watching, the huge backwardation in the market continue to grow. So, all those things tell me that there is a huge supply crunch that's sort of already here and is still coming our way. So that's when I see the supply side. On the demand side, I'm seeing a lot of what you guys are probably seeing, which is that, users of oil are trying to extend their tanks as long as they can, try not to fill up. So we've sort of seen demand lighter on that side. On the flip side, we've also seen that, this is lasting a lot longer, than people had expected, and it's going to outlast the ability for people to run off their tanks. So, at some point the demand's going to have to come back. And then there's the cost side. On the cost side, we're seeing spot barge rates are way higher. Inventory financing, anyone who's got AR outstanding or inventory, the price of those receivables and that inventory is way higher, so that's costing a lot more money to finance. And then we're also seeing the hedging costs for all of our products go way up. So, overall, you're basically seeing that, costs are through the roof. And so at the end of the day, I think that, things here will remain tricky and volatile. A lot going on. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how this all plays out, just like the rest of the world's waiting at this point.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess the last thing I would say to our viewers is that, last week we talked about the tipping point. This week we're really living it. A lot's going to change in the next 24 to 36 hours, most likely. So I think, advice to everyone, again, stay cautious, buy what you can sell what you can buy. Stay in touch with your suppliers and just be ready to adapt quickly, just like everyone else in the industry. We'll get through this, but it's going to, take some patience, and you're going to have to take some adaptability and be ready to kind of roll with the punches at this point.
Well, thanks for joining me, Joel.
Thank you very much for having me, Emily.
If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check out our latest monthly feature, A History of Sprague, available now on our YouTube channel.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another Refined Products Review. Refine your insight.
Fuel your success.
Well, Steve's not here, so let's see what we can do.
See what we can do.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. Or do you want to? Yeah, do you want to text him and tell him that we're going to be in shoot?
Call.
You've been replaced. Don't knock on the door.
No, again, he might knock anyway.
Probably will. We'll deal with that when it comes to it.
And we didn't have any knocks on the door.
Nope. Good enough.